It was very late. And then he came to the shoot and he just stayed in the car.
What?
He just stayed in the car and he was just smoking away. And I was like, bro.
Oh, what's up? Oh, what's up?
Yo, what up? It's Maje back in another video. Today we're about to be getting into a video by Hello Yassine, and the video is going to be on Trippie Redd Humiliates, the biggest YouTuber. I mean, I think I saw a skimmer of this story when I think this nigga Trippie Redd. No. Actually, KSI was talking in the interview saying Trippie Redd's music was horrible or something like that. I don't know what he said, but he's talking shit about Trippie Redd, and Trippie Redd really kind of clapped back at him by trolling.
Follow me, y'all. UK hitmaker KSI, who decided to take a little break from his music career after spawning the modern day version, or well, like we in 2020, right? We had YBN Amir Soul Train, and then not 2020, but you guys get it. In the early stages of the 2020s, we had YBN Amir's Soul Train, and that version for KSI was Thick of It. That came out in 2025. That was one of the biggest memed songs everywhere. And whenever I hear that title, I can't help but think of the Backyardigans jingle of Into the Thick of It. But he did this song with Trippie Redd, and he was asked recently in an interview. KSI has been locked in on his YouTube grind as of the past year, really going hard on that. And he got asked about what artist was the most annoying to work with, because they've done a lot of music with, or they as an artist have done a lot of music with him. He's collaborated with Lil Pump, he's collaborated with Smoke Burp, he's collaborated with Lil Wayne, he's collaborated with Rick Ross. So all of these guys, you're probably thinking, okay, so who's the worst? Well, I'm gonna play you guys this clip right now.
Who you collabed with where you just wanted to leave halfway through filming? Like you were just fed up?
Oh, that's a good question. I'd probably say Trippie Redd. I remember when we filmed the music video, Wake Up Call. Bro, he was like 7-8 hours. It was very late. And then he came to the shoot and he just stayed in the car.
What?
He just stayed in the car and he was just smoking away. And I was like, bro, what are you doing? Like, you're late and now you're just taking the piss. So it got to a point where
I'm not gonna lie, he probably just thought you were just this YouTuber asking for a feature. You already paid him a deposit or something like that, and he probably just like walking all over you. I mean, rappers don't be having a lot of respect for YouTubers or streamers, especially some of these streamers. We all know how that goes in the streamer world. But it basically kind of ends up like that shit, bro. You gotta like buckle down and like say you gotta be here, or make them niggas sign a contract. Stop trying to go all features, my nigga.
Was like, I just didn't want him to be there, but eventually went out and we did our thing, and that's that. But yeah, I'd say Trippie Redd was one of the most frustrating people to work with for sure. Compared to like a musician, and compared to like an actor, with YouTubers, you have to be likable because you're in front of the camera all the time.
So Trippie Redd would respond to this, and he would respond in the comment section, putting a bunch of burger emojis, and then he would respond in an IG story. So yeah, Trippie Redd's for sure speaking facts, because KSI is not only hard to listen to, he is very, 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 very hard to. It's like nails on a chalkboard listening to KSI music.
I'm not even gonna lie, I have not tried listening to one of that nigga's songs. Unauthorized, if I'm like forced to listen to that nigga shit by scrolling through a fucking meme and hearing I'm from the screen to the ring, bro. I fucking hate that song, bro. I could not do it. Thank God that wave's over. Thank God people stopped using it to taunt that nigga. Quit making fun of that nigga, because the music video is already horrible enough.
But one thing that I have to ask, two things. We have to go in on Trippie Redd here, because this is one of the most irritating things about rappers as a whole. But first off, with KSI. KSI is talking about his Dissimulation album, which was, if you guys remember, in the beginning of 2020, KSI kind of disappeared. He blacked out his profile. He just stopped stopped uploading. I think he privated or unlisted the majority of his YouTube videos. And then he came back with an album. On this album was Offset, Lil Pump, Smoke Perp, Tion Wayne, Jeremiah. Trippie Redd was one of them, Rick Ross, and Lil Baby. So keep in mind, he's saying that out of this whole crew, the worst one to work with was Trippie Redd. But keep in mind also, 2020 Trippie Redd is a different story from 2025 Trippie Redd. 2020 Trippie Redd was on a roll. He had multiple hits under his belt. 6ix9ine was like, he had won the beef at that point in time. Like, he had just dropped so much music in the time that 6ix9ine was locked up. And even after 6ix9ine came back with the hit, he didn't really come back and hit the ground running with like song after song after song. And I think he was like moving on to Spanish type of music. So Trippie Redd here was feeling himself, but I can't help but think in 2020, you guys remember what also dropped in 2020? No, you guys probably don't remember because I made a mistake. It was 2021. It had to be 2021, Mr. Rage. So for a Trippie Redd, is Trippie Redd going to be 7 hours late and just all around be an annoying individual to work with for a Playboy Cardi? Keep in mind, this is post Die Lit and also post, not Love is Rage, post Whole Lotta Red Cardi. So rappers have this, it's almost similar to when people online talk about like, oh man, these rappers, they know who to try. They like, for example, like they'll say Academics, or Academics will say himself like, yo, I know Meek Mill's not like that. So that's why I'll say I'll run it with him. I know Lil Baby's not like that, but I also know Pooh Shiesty is like that. So I'm not going to mess with him. And I also know Blueface will put hands on me. So I'm not going to mess with him. So it's like that. And they usually say this about gangster rappers too, which is like, yo, rappers know who to mess with. But I also think from an industry perspective, it's similar too, where
yeah, I'm not gonna lie. Rappers do know who to mess with and not mess with at the same time. You go mess with a motherfucker that's gonna call the fucking police on you? No, nigga. Don't try to keep doing that shit. But especially like an academics type of nigga. Academics will talk all the shit in the world. You go have to like see him as like, oh, that's a nigga that's just gonna call the cops at the end of the day. He said it himself.
there are certain rappers that are professional all around the board and they're always getting their stuff done. Like it seemed like when he did the Lil Wayne thing, that worked out perfectly. Granted, Lil Wayne is my GOAT, but he has known to be a little bit difficult to work with at times, especially with performances and stuff. But he showed up to this music video shoot and he got this music video shoot done. So he's certainly about his paper. But Trippie Redd here, like I said, he wasn't going to do this with a Travis Scott. You think he pulled up late when Travis Scott first collaborated with Trippie Redd? Hell no, he didn't show up late. Or when Diplo hit him up? I highly doubt that. But seeing KSI as a YouTuber, some people just want to finesse him. That's why I also think like KSI, he had to show some level of respect. Well, number one, I don't even know why he worked with Lil Pump and Smoke Perp in 2020. That was probably the biggest feature that they ever got, or the biggest bag that they got that year.
Yeah, I'm not gonna lie. That one, if he would have worked with like Pump and Perp back in like 2018, I would say back at the height of their career, that would make more sense. But 2020, like that was like 2 years later, they were going downhill, nigga. Like they were not like lasting in the rap game. No. Scratch that. 2018 wasn't it. That was like when their career was falling off a little bit. 2016 to 2017, which is only a 2 year span. But that was basically it, bro. That was it for them. If you would have collabed with them back then, nigga, that would have made more sense. But 2020, why?
Certainly had to come from KSI's music. But then, if he's talking about Trippie Redd like this, then why did you guys work together again? Because they're talking about a song from 2020, Wake Up Call. So here KSI is saying that Trippie Redd was the worst person to work with. He showed up so late, yet you guys are working together when you dropped the Thick of It song. And when Thick of It came out, which was in 2024, he posted and he said, I was held hostage to do this. If this doesn't hit 20 million views the first month, KSI won't let me go. Please free me. So here is KSI, who complained about Trippie Redd. Well, he's talking about the situation now. But if you had such a terrible experience with Trippie Redd, who you clearly paid a bag, Trippie Redd taxed him, or Trippie Redd's management, or whoever, they for sure taxed him, and you have to tax a KSI, especially in 2020, because there is a reputational risk that the artist like Trippie Redd is taking by being on a quote-unquote Joker's album. If you guys remember years before this, Jake Paul, he had gotten Gucci Mane on a feature. And the reason that Gucci Mane did the feature was because Gucci Mane's kids were fans and viewers of Jake Paul's vlogs and their content. So they were like, yo, you should really do this. And they paid him a big bag. But a lot of rappers, even
I'm not gonna lie, you shouldn't have. Gucci shouldn't have did that. Even for like a Jake Paul height of his career, paying the money. I feel like money is just not worth it. Just doing something with the Paul brothers at any time.
if the money was right, they're looking at it like, yo, if I'm standing next to Jake Paul or Logan Paul, I'm going to look corny. My brand's going to take a hit and people are not going to mess with me. Now, this is a little bit different now because there's just a lot more music coming out and stuff like this can just go under the radar or not get as much attention. So that's the tax that a KSI has to pay or anybody that's not taken seriously in music. And with trash music like KSI's, although that song with Lil Wayne was pretty good, to be fair, Lil Wayne's part at least, KSI's, he just needed somebody else to sing that or the original person who wrote the reference track for him. Now, if he was the one that actually laid down that track, well, he should have given it as a reference to somebody else. So I'll still give him credit, but he should not have been performing that song for sure. So I'm wondering what happened for KSI to work with Trippie Redd again, because you can't complain about this guy. And this is where I say Trippie Redd's kind of got a point, because he's looking at it like, no, we just worked the other year, like a year and a half, 2 years ago on this track. And you're talking about a track from 5 years ago. So if we were cool with this and Trippie Redd did not really, there was a lot of hate on Thick of It. Trippie Redd could have came out and said, man, you know, he just paid me a big bag. You know, I didn't even want to work with this guy. Oh, this was clearly a move for me to just make money, because this was a bad song. This guy.
Yeah, I'm not gonna lie. At least Trippie Redd kept it solid and didn't really say anything about that shit. Otherwise, this nigga coming out and saying like, "Oh, Trippie Redd was horrible to work with," and then turn around and work with him again. What? Yo, okay. It seemed like he's just trying to get something started against this. Is like, his career in music has not been in the limelight good, at least ever since that Thick of It song or whatever. And he's only been like, back as a YouTuber. I'm not saying YouTuber is a bad thing, because this nigga's huge on there. Hell, I'm trying to get huge on YouTube, but like the career is just not working out with the the music, man. I don't know why everybody try to turn into like a rapper at the end of the day.
A really bad reception. Now, it does have 100 million plus streams, but for Trippie Redd, this isn't even one of Trippie Redd's biggest songs. Like I said, if you look at Trippie Redd's catalog, his stuff streams. If you look at Trippie Redd's top most popular songs on Spotify, you know it's nowhere to be found? Thick of It. However, if you look at KSI's, the #1 song on there on most popular, which isn't by all-time streams. So, for example, when you go to Spotify and you go to Trippie Redd's profile, you'll see most popular. That's the most popular songs that are currently being streamed. So F Love, for instance, that's got multiple billions, but people are replaying that now. It doesn't go by all time. But for KSI, like, for example, Holiday has more streams than Thick of It, but it's second on the list for KSI. But Trippie Redd, the feature, Thick of It, is being streamed more right now. So there's more longevity, if you want to call it that, for Thick of It. That's kind of how, like, the popular section of a rapper or musician's Spotify profile looks like. So Trippie Redd is on there, and he's the #1. So more than any other rapper you worked with. Like, he even did a song with Lil Durk. So it's interesting to hear that Lil Durk was easy to work with as well. So I'm wondering, did Trippie Redd just mature and it got better to work with him then? And for KSI, if this was true, he should have at least made a note where he said, like, yeah, but we did Thick of It after that, and he was very professional, and the music video shoot went great for that one. Because there's a reason why you did Thick of It. There's a reason why you work with Trippie Redd again. Like, it couldn't be, I want to know that reason. That should have been a follow-up question, but I think this interview, this would have been a follow-up question from somebody that is tapped into music and follows it to ask him, because they're like, yo, what's going on with that? And then he would have given his credit. So I understand to a degree why Trippie Redd feels a certain type of way. I would just like it from his perspective. Like, yo, why did you end up doing Thick of It? Or why is he calling him a burger, #1? And does he feel disrespected because he did Thick of It? And didn't talk trash about it and down it, because Trippie Redd had the right to disassociate with KSI. The song, think of it, and how much terrible reception it was getting, it was like a Soul Train. So if Trippie Redd said, yo, you know, like, that ain't even my song, like, I just got a crazy bag, we would all understand. We wouldn't call Trippie Redd a scumbag or none of that, because also the way that the song is received by the public, you can never know before the song drops. Like when YBN Namir was recording Soul Train and the engineer was playing it back to him, he was like, oh, this is the one. That's really what he thought. And then it ended up being the one, but not the one that you wanted. But
Oh my god, bro. It seemed like I don't know. I seem like fucking KSI is literally just trying to do that for like clicks and views, bro. Because you wouldn't turn around and work with the rapper again if you think he was unprofessional and like weird to work with. And that Think of It song could have just, yeah, I'm not gonna lie, spiraled out and ended that nigga Trippie Redd's career, my nigga. If I'm being too sure, that song was horrible, bro. And I don't know how he even like festered up to, you know, make that song again. I know the money talks, because they had to tax that nigga on that shit, because KSI is a nigga that get a lot of money, especially that YouTube money, my nigga. But oh man, but I don't think he should have, like I said, he should have probably like shouldn't have did that song. But I agree with what you're seeing. He should have followed that up and, you know, been a real nigga and explained why, and, you know, give Trippie Redd his credit, because that's some slick ass weird shit. But hey, if you guys like that video, go check out your scene. Like and subscribe if you want to see more reactions by me. Go check out my other ones. We on the road to 400. Catch you guys in the next video.
He was the best guy around. What about the people he murdered? What murder?